Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about Aquarian Age Wicca and what the difference is between a closed coven and what Aquarian Age Wicca is. So, for those of you watching this video, you're going to want a little bit of a background in what Wicca is because otherwise you probably won't understand this video at all. So, basically, traditionally, a coven is made up of 13 or less individuals, usually 12 people and a leader is generally what is expected to find in a coven. And usually in very old traditional witchcraft, or Wicca as we now call it, this is usually made up of initiates only. And the requirements for initiation can vary from group to group. So the reason I'm kind of hesitating and saying like usually this and usually that is because there are so many wide varieties of differences between these meanings. So it's very difficult to define these kind of across the board because for one person they could say, well, that's wrong, my previous coven did this. And another person could completely agree with me. So, what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to tell you my personal experience. So, here goes. My experience originally, when I joined this tradition, what became known as Aquarian Age Wicca, was I joined a small coven in Philadelphia. And at the time, my high priestess had us say, when people said, oh, what religion are you? We would say, I am studying Wicca. And she explained to me that we are not Wiccan until you are initiated. So, in order for you to be identifying as a Wiccan, you must be initiated. And that's what was explained to me at the time. So at the time, this was a training coven, which means that like no one's initiated. This is a small group of people. It's just new. It's beginning, and that's because my high priestess had just moved to Philadelphia from Maryland where she was part of a bigger coven. So this small coven, the small training coven in Philadelphia, is where I was eventually initiated and made a Wiccan and a witch of my own right, as we call it. And so that was a very exciting day for me when I got first degree and I was able to call myself a Wiccan. Now, years pass and I moved to Austin, Texas, and I started my own branch of this tradition, which at the time we were just calling it eclectic. I'm not going to give specific names, but it was an eclectic traditional style of Wicca. And I said to my high priestess, the names that we're using are reminiscent of traditional Wicca more so than we represent. Not that we don't have lineage somewhere to it, but along the way, we decided that it wasn't really important to us. We changed a lot of things that we believe in as far as we modernized, so to speak. So, me and my high priestess decided that, you know what, it's okay, like, we can rename this tradition. So we renamed the tradition Aquarian Age Wicca in honor of Doreen Valiente, who talked a lot about the Aquarian Age, and that's the age that we're transitioning into now. And this age is supposed to be a very magical and significant age of change. So we've changed a lot over the past couple of years, and one of the major changes that we've made in the form of the tradition is covens. So my first coven in Austin was a traditional formed coven. Now, a coven is an entity of its own, right? So anyone can say I have a coven, but from the perspective that I am talking about, a coven in the old definition of what we used to believe in means that this person who has decided to run this group has founded this coven of 3 or more initiates. So it has to be initiates, and there's been a ritual, a covening done, so that this group has a life of its own. Now, a couple years into running this coven, which was initiates only, we circled for most sabbats and most SBATs initiates only, and occasionally we would have students of the coven circle with us. So in casual speak, a lot of the students would say I'm in a coven, but that actually, like, at the time wasn't true because technically until they're initiated, they are studying with a coven. However, recently around Mabon, my high priestess and I made the decision to dissolve all coven branches of Aquarian Age Wicca. And that means that the entity, the magical structure of this like coven that was initiates only ceases to exist. And what that means is that it just means that like it doesn't mean that we can't meet, or it doesn't mean that we can't circle. It just meant that that structure is no longer a thing anymore. What we decided is that we wanted to kind of reevaluate how Wicca works in this new age of Aquarius. And we really wanted to see, okay, what structure of teaching is best? Because it was very difficult for us as an inner circle. Inner circle is exchangeable with the word coven. Inner circle means initiates only. So in our inner circle, initiates only coven, we found it very difficult to make forward progress because of people's schedules, of people's work lives, of people's family lives. And this isn't like, it's not uncommon, right? It's because in this day and age, everyone's life is so hectic, you know? A lot of us are working really hard, extra hours just to put food on the table, just to provide for our families. And this, unfortunately, is, I think, one of the downsides of the Aquarian age, is that people have to work extra hard to make ends meet. And if you look at financial history through history, even going back 100 years, a typical work week wasn't what we see it as now. And people took off for holidays and people were able to spend time with family. But now, like, even maternity leave in the United States is tiny and sometimes non-existent for certain people who are contractors, and I could go on and on forever. But that aside, it was just very difficult to make progress because people had to put their lives, their survival, I will say, first, before coven. They weren't comfortably provided for enough to have the time to devote to growing. So that's not what we want. We don't want people to stress themselves out so much that they can't make progress in their spirituality. We don't want people to feel like coven is a stressful, horrible place. We want people to feel like it's a wonderful place. So what we decided is that we were going to dissolve the inner circle coven and redefine what coven Wicca is for us. And we did something that traditional Wiccans really don't do, which is we decided to make this coven community way more inclusive of non-initiates. So now non-initiates can be considered full members of the coven. And we stopped using the word coven for a while because people were very confused. So we would just call it our Wiccan community. But really, like, the word coven just means a group of Wiccans. Traditionally, as I said, it means 13 or less. But if you want to use the word coven, it doesn't really matter because people in eclectic Wicca are using the word coven to describe their group of 40 friends that no one's initiated, and they just meet in the big city and they have a big Sabbath. Like, the word coven is so personal for definition these days, and it doesn't have like that very tight meaning that it used to have in the old days. So we can use the word coven, we can use the word tradition, we can use the word Wiccan community interchangeably. It really doesn't matter because in the end it's just a word. So what are we? We are a tradition of Wicca that we have multiple locations of groups, and we come together for Sabbats. Those Sabbats are open to anyone who decides to be a member. And who is regularly attending, because if they're not regularly attending, the person who's leading the circle can't know how they feel about that person's energy. So there is a little bit of like, you have to regularly attend community events and community classes in order to get these invites to these circles. But it's not like one of those things now that we don't have this line anymore where it's like, if you're initiated, you can attend, and if you're not initiated, you can't attend. Now it's like, everyone has to put their time in, whether initiated or not, to get an invite. And if, you're initiated but we haven't seen you for 4 years, you might not get an invite. But if you keep in touch and you're like, hey, like, I would really like to come to something, can I meet with the person who's running the circle and like see if I can be invited? Like, that's totally fine. You know what I mean? So I'm going to look at like a little list that I emailed out and just see if I touched on everything. So this is an email that I sent to people in the group a little while back. And I wrote, A closed coven is made up of initiates only. This means only initiates are members of that coven and members of the tradition. This is what our tradition formerly was. I just explained that. In fact, in our closed coven, only initiates attended the real Samhain ritual, which you all saw this year. So actually, all of our students this year were invited to, because they had all been attending regularly and I had been seeing them a lot. I felt comfortable circling with all of them, so I invited everyone from Austin, when I was in Austin this Samhain, to attend our Samhain ritual. And that ritual that you saw, that was really special because that was normally initiates only. And it's really cool that you guys got to see that and that we are sharing these secret rituals with you guys in perfect love and perfect trust now, because we're redefining what it means to be Wiccan. It's not some initiation that makes you Wiccan. It's your choice that makes you Wiccan. And that, I think, is very powerful. It still means that you have to treat entering circle with the same level of respect, you know, and respect everyone there and have perfect love and perfect trust for everyone there. But it means that it's your decision and it's not anyone else's decision to make for you, which when you're initiated, it's someone else's decision whether or not you're ready for initiation. But this means that it all falls on you. Did you do the work? Did you attend? Do you have perfect love and perfect trust? Do you have strength of heart and purity of mind and most honest of intentions? It falls on you. And I think that's very powerful, that some leader doesn't have to make this decision for you. There was a video that I shared in an email a little while back, and it was talking about how the age of the charismatic leader is over. It was, I think, in like one of the last emails I sent you guys. Check that out. It's actually pretty cool. It's by a Gardnerian person who's getting interviewed, and they're talking about how like the age of like the charismatic leader is over, and like this is more of an age of like everyone can decide like what they identify as far as like their religion and like their personal, like everything in their life, like you have a choice, and like free will is like super important. So I find that really empowering and really passionate. So let me continue. By opening up to the community model of an open tradition. So now when I use the word coven, this means everyone who decides to be included. This means that anyone can decide to become an official member of Aquarian Age Wicca. Formerly, only initiates were considered members. Now, all a person has to do to become and stay an official member of Aquarian Age Wicca is these things. Take the Intro to Aquarian Age Wicca course with me or another teacher in person, or take the 8-week online course. So that means that 8-week course is basically teaching you like, what is it to be Wiccan? Do you know what Wicca is? We don't want people to say I'm Wiccan but not know what Wicca is. So that's why in order to be considered a member, you have to take that course. And everyone I taught in person in the past year, you know, you all finished that course. But people who are watching this in the future, if you're taking it online, that's the course that you need to finish in order to be considered a member. Take the evaluation that's now available online for your convenience. Some of you took it in person. Perform a self-dedication ritual in Aquarian Age Wicca tradition to the goddess and the god, stating your intent to be a dedicated Wiccan, and hold yourself to this practice. So this self-dedication is a promise between you and the goddess and the god that you have decided that you are Wiccan. And we didn't used to do self-dedication. We used to do like a dedication and then like as like on a path to initiation. So like this self-dedication I think is very powerful because it's saying that you promise, not that anyone is helping you promise, but that you promise. And I really think that's a very powerful thing. Again, like free will, I just love it so much. The next thing, keep up your participation. So if you're in an in-person group and you want to attend in-person rituals, make sure you're attending community events, such as like, for example, if there's a book meeting to discuss a book, or if there is like a community event such as like our annual Trail of Lights meetup, stuff like that. Like try your best to attend a lot of I don't want to say social, but like there is a social element. You just want people to know who you are and your energy, and you know, everyone needs to get to know each other in perfect love and perfect trust. And something that is also really important is that everyone has positive speech during these times that you meet. You know, we don't want to talk about a lot of negativity. We don't want to bring a lot of negativity to the table, and we definitely don't want to gossip or talk about others. So when we meet, we vow in perfect love and perfect trust that we are being positive and we are talking kindly about others. And we're not going to talk about people behind their back, whether we're at meeting or away from meeting. So that's something that I think is very important to remember during social meetups. Pay dues to keep the group running, and as you know, our Samhain retreat cost us $1,000 this year, and I only charged everyone $30 to go, and it cost me a lot of money. So it cost me a lot of money to hold it. So that those dues help a lot in the running of this group. It helps me not be completely broke. So it helps the leaders keep this running. So pay dues to help keep the group running. Additionally, help out at markets or other community events. That's something you should do to stay a member. And it will help show newer students how the community works together in harmony to get their goals accomplished. So if you keep up all these things, you're an official member of the tradition. You don't need me or anyone else to tell you that you are ready. It's your personal free will. It's up to you to work hard and get there, to know what Wicca is, to do the homework, to take the evaluation, and it's in your own hands, which is what I love most about this open coven structure. I don't have to be constantly watching you to see who's advanced enough for initiation to be a member. You get to decide when you want to become a member. So that's something that I really, really love. Okay, what else? So if you do want to initiate, after you have been a dedicant for over a year, talk to me. And if you have been active enough and if you're committed enough, I will help you reach that goal. And now initiation is going to be reserved only for people who have the time and the energy to really help others. So as an initiate, as a clergy member, we're not going to talk too much about this because this is about, this is about coven members. This is about dedicants, about students. But if your dream is to be a leader of Aquarian Age Wicca, I will absolutely help you reach that dream. And but I want you to be committed to that dream. Of course, maybe you can't do it every year for the rest of your life, but I want you, if you initiate, to at least know that you can spend a few months here and there, or, a couple good years helping grow the community and helping with other people learn what you've learned, because this knowledge is a gift, and, you want to help pass that gift on, and it's about giving back. And that's what I love most about Wicca. For me, it's not about the people, because I love all of you. But what's really funny is it's so easy to get attached. And I was so sad when I left Austin, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'll never love again. I do this every time. But then as soon as I get to Tampa and I meet with my students here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in love again. So for me, it's not about a specific person or a specific place. I love all of you the same, because I am giving you all the gift of Wicca. And what I love the most about Wicca and teaching Wicca is that no matter where I go and no matter where I travel to, there will always be someone to pass the knowledge of Wicca onto. And it is my absolute hope that, everything changes, and I'm not going to be your teacher in person forever, but it's my absolute hope that all of you watching this know that if I have been with you for a month or 2 months or a year or 5 years, that you will keep that knowledge that I shared with you and all of those beautiful times that we had in circle in your heart. You'll remember them always, and you'll share that love with everyone else, and you'll share the love of the goddess and the god. If I can touch a lot of people's hearts with the knowledge of Wicca, then that is what my life's goal is. So I hope that I can help you out with all the spell things that you need, and answer all your emails and answer all your questions. And I'm always here if you need me. So have a beautiful Yule if you're watching this right when it comes out at Yule. And if you're watching this in the future, have a beautiful Sabbath wherever you're at with whichever coven leader, circle leader that you have. And know that I am thinking about you, and I'm wishing you the brightest of blessings. I love you all. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. So mote it be. Till next time.